So we've got those water problems in parts of Randburg. Also, of course, electricity problems in some places. The price of gas is going up as well. All of this has a big impact on businesses, and particularly restaurants. Wendy Elberts is the CEO of the Restaurants Association of South Africa. Wendy, good afternoon to you. So in eThekwini today, rubbish is not being collected. There are piles of rubbish everywhere. Water problems in Joburg. How on earth can people run a restaurant in this kind of environment?
You know, Stephen, there's so much going on, and yet again, we always have these conversations when it seems that we run into a crisis. But, I mean, the situation within our restaurants is real. You know, you can imagine that water is used for absolutely everything, and you can imagine that we can't function without the activity of using water. And I think, you know, we really now need to start getting serious as South Africans, as our industry, and start actually asking the right questions. There's absolutely no long-term plan or short-term plan to resolve this. There's absolutely no explanation as to why and what's going to happen, or any forward plan to resolve the issue. When we have to use our own infrastructure, it becomes really expensive. We have tanks, and then the Eskom has an impact on those particular restaurants, which means we can't use those tanks because they require electricity to run it. The generators sometimes aren't big enough. There's absolutely nobody taking responsibility of this crisis at the point in time, and let alone the one key thing that I've said throughout all of these challenges is a poor level of communication. There's simply no communication. So to think that they can pay poor lip service by putting a few tankers of water in a surrounding space, that is not going to serve the purpose for what we need in restaurants. We need water for cooking, we need water for cleaning, we need water for sanitization, the toilets. So the impact that it has from us from a financial point of view is massive. And we always go through these challenges and we have these conversations, but we never take the people who are appointed to deliver the duties to task. And there's no rebates given to us. So when there's an electricity crisis, we throw mass amounts of food away. There's no one taking responsibility in that node for the losses that we made, yet again with the lack of water to our restaurants. And many restaurants have gone and done what they can do to be off the grid, to provide their own means of water supply, to provide their own sanitization for those tanks, their own electricity. But it's all come at a cost. And all we're doing as private sectors, we are taking more and more responsibility away from the municipality. And they're simply not doing their jobs. Who is the person responsible for making this poor decision, who did not do the proper planning, who did not make accountability on the infrastructure to ensure that this would not happen? The same thing for the electricity, the same thing for the cabling, the same thing for the refuse, and the list goes on and on and on. And we as restaurateurs, we maintain that we are obviously resilient, that we are resourceful, that we do what we can do to ensure that the experiences for our customers are right. But as South Africans now, we really need to put our foot down, and we cannot tolerate and even on any level accept the poor services from the municipality that we are receiving.
There was a statement the other day by the restaurant chain Spur. They are investing in the storage of drinking water at a very large number of their restaurants. Now, that must be expensive. I mean, that's just one example. I'm sure other restaurants have had to do the same kind of thing. I mean, when you have to add costs like that to your restaurants, never mind the electricity backup systems that some of your restaurants will have, I mean, what does that do to your bottom line?
Stephen, you know, these conversations, we can continue with them. Some restaurants just don't have the financial capabilities to be able to invest in any further infrastructure. The relationships with their landlords are tricky. The landlords are also taking strain. The municipal services are also not being delivered to those shopping centres or strip malls, etc. So the impact in the value chain to the delivery to restaurants has a negative fall on everybody, not only the restaurants. But the cost to put the infrastructure in, the cost for us to go and buy bottled water, the cost for bottled water to be delivered, all comes back at a cost back to the consumer. And we really are trying to be mindful of where we are in the economy. We are mindful that the interest rates are extremely high, disposable income is low. We want people to enjoy eating out. We want them to come to our restaurants and feel safe. And all of this, again, rests upon us as business operators, owners, private sector, communities, and various places for us to ensure that we as private people are able to have access to basic resources that we pay the municipality and the government in massive amounts of taxes. And we can no longer be complacent on these levels. And to try and talk to anybody and to try and get any type of action or communication, correspondence, explanation, timelines, or anything out of them is virtually impossible. And as we weave through this place, we're now going to lose some more restaurants. Some of those restaurants just simply can't sustain keeping open without that, or having to take the water. It means losses. The gearing of the restaurant has an impact. And so we have a negative spill-off. And again, nobody takes accountability. And this is now going on for years now that we see that there's just a complete disregard for businesses, a disrespect for us as communities, people, to have the basic needs that we've got: water, electricity, the removal of refuse, and safety, the roads if we travel on potholes, trying to get people to commute to restaurants in some areas is also very challenging.
It also means that your restaurants don't employ people. It has an impact on unemployment. It means that people who could be employed aren't employed because restaurants are spending all of their money on backup services.
Even we have these conversations about employment, and when we sit and we listen to conversations that get taken by people who are supposed to be leading the country, it makes me really concerned, because when we can boast that we've got so many more people sitting that we are able to pay rebates for, that are sitting on the unemployment bill, it's unacceptable. There's so much employment opportunity if people who are employed to do their jobs in the municipal services just do their jobs. Then we won't be sitting in crisis situations like this, having to manage things, to put additional costs. We could be focusing on the good things, the things that build our country, the good morale, keeping people employed, keeping them invested in the country, letting them feel good that they have a business and a job to go to. But we live on edge every single day, especially in Joburg. You've seen how it works. And it makes it very difficult to maintain any type of morale, to keep your business going, the confidence. To try and take lending from the banks is virtually impossible. And these are all challenges that we weave through as operators. Good operators survive the time. Those people that have sought to opening up a restaurant, it's devastating. And for those people and those families and the subsecondary businesses that do get a salary or a wage out of those particular restaurants also fall by the wayside, and it impacts everybody in the value chain.
Wendy Alberts, thank you. CEO of the Restaurant Association, just one group of businesses, of course, affected by the situation that so many people are facing at the moment.